Get ready to make some serious money in the top 25 college football this week. Let's go. Virginia versus Louisville. A lot of line value here. Virginia's coming off a real bad blowout loss to Georgia Tech, who's been one of the hottest teams in college football lately. Louisville's coming off a 34-3 blowout of Virginia Tech. So this line's very inflated. Virginia's 17-8-1 ATS versus ranked teams, and we're going to make it, they've covered 4 straight as underdogs. Louisville, like I said, they can move the ball and they can score, but this line is way too high. Expect Virginia to slide within the number here. Penn State and Michigan. Penn State has not fared well versus ranked teams. They're only 7-21 ATS, their last, 28? But they are 15-8-1 ATS versus the Big Ten. I wish this game was at night at Penn State, but it's not. But I'm still backing the home dog here. Michigan's really played a weak schedule. This is their toughest test of the year. It's on the road. I got Penn State +5 at home. A lot of points in this Kentucky-Alabama game. I know Alabama's 55-36-2 against the spread as double-digit faves versus the SEC, but Kentucky's played a real tough schedule this year. Florida, Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee. I expect Kentucky to definitely stay within this number at home versus Alabama this week. I'm taking the 12. Kansas is playing great ever since they got blown out against Texas 40-14. I mean, they covered versus you and they blew out UCF 51-22. They beat Oklahoma. They just beat Iowa State on the road, which is a tough team. Texas Tech, they played some mediocre teams. They're 0-5 ATS versus teams with a winning record this season, and they've only really beaten weak teams. Kansas isn't weak. Lay the points. Tulane's laying a high number again, and they're 0-5 ATS as double-digit favorites this season. And I think that trend continues here. Tulsa's been a money machine as road underdog since the start of the 2019 season. They're 14-3-1 against the spread. I know Tulsa is coming off an emotional home loss last week, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tulane blew them out. But I think this line is way too high. I'm going to take Tulsa plus the points. Old Dominion, Liberty, I'm really not interested in this one, although I would side with Old Dominion. I like them getting points. They can stay and hang within games. UConn and James Madison is definitely a pass. Colorado, they're due not to cover. They got a lucky cover last week versus Oregon State. Meanwhile, Arizona's been a covering machine. Most underrated team in college football this year. And I'm telling you right now, they are playing for something big, and they're going to go into Colorado and take this. They dominated UCLA last week, and they will dominate Colorado this week, just like Oregon State did. They really did dominate Colorado last week, holding them to 78 yards total. Arizona big over Colorado this week. Florida State, Miami. I've been telling you all year, Florida State lines makers have such an accurate line on this Florida State team. Last week, again, came down to a last possession against Pittsburgh. They could have covered that game. Meanwhile, Miami has really not played. They played awful the last couple of weeks. They losing to NC State, barely beating Virginia at home. And Miami is not good against ranked teams. They're 1-8 ATS the last 9 since 2007. They're 0-4 as double-digit underdogs since 2017. Lay the points with Florida State. They're due to cover, and they should cover big here. Utah and Washington. Utah's played all season. They played well. 14-4 ATS as road dogs as well the past 10 seasons. But I think Washington really woke up last week against USC, and they know they can't afford to play in really close calls against Arizona State. 15-7 against Stanford, only won by 9. Expect a different outcome here at home. And this is just a mismatch. Lay the points with Washington. They should dominate. This is the biggest test on the road for Utah all season long, and I think they get dominated. Tennessee and Missouri is a real tough game. Tennessee's covered 4 straight against Missouri. I'm going to make it 5 here. I'll lay the 1 on the road at Missouri, coming off a big game against Georgia. This Oklahoma State UCF line looks tricky. Only laying 1 on the road at UCF, who's 4-5. I'm going with the team that needs this game the most, and that's UCF to get a bowl bid. I'm definitely taking the points plus the 2.5 against Oklahoma State, who's coming off of a rival game last week. This is not a major bet, but I'm going to lean UCF at home plus the points. Oregon State, they continued last week. They didn't get the cover against Colorado, but they're so due, and they're 11-1 ATS at home. The favorites the last 3 years. They should dominate Stanford here. Stanford's covered the last 2 games, so you get a little line value here with Oregon State. I'm laying it over Stanford. This is the fewest amount of points Georgia's favored by all season long, and it's the most amount of points that Ole Miss has been getting. Ole Miss really hasn't. They played home games all year. They've been at home. They've only played one road game really in the last, month and a half at Auburn. They won 28-21. I can see Ole Miss hanging within 12. I can also see Georgia blowing them out here because Ole Miss's defense is not so good. This is a tough game to bet. But if I had to take it, I'm going to take Ole Miss in the big, high-powered offense here to keep it close, keep it within 12. We'll see. West Virginia's sneaky good. They've covered 3 straight as underdogs, and I think they make it 4 here. Oklahoma's really cooled off after a 6-0 ATS start to the season, losing to Oak State, Kansas last 2 weeks, barely beating UCF at home 3 weeks ago. I wouldn't be surprised if West Virginia came in and won outright. Outright? They're covering this number, though. Ohio State, this is going to be embarrassing against Michigan State. Lay it. Texas is going to dominate TCU. Lay it. I can't see Florida hanging with LSU at LSU this week. It really all depends on the status of LSU's quarterback, Daniels. Duke and North Carolina I'm passing on. And Oregon's just going to pound USC. Please. They may win by 6. They may score 60 or 70.